All right, thanks everybody for coming today. This is the first of many digital SIGs for Nashville AMA this year. And thank you for being our guinea pigs for doing a Google Hangout on air. We're hoping to do many more events like this to greatly expand the type and quality of content that we can bring here to Nashville. And we're also using this as an opportunity to share this with other NAMA chapters in the surrounding area. So thank you for being here. I'm hoping that folks that are streaming this can see it, but I don't have that faith right now. So if nothing else, we'll be able to watch the YouTube video of this event. So thanks again for coming, and I wanted to introduce you to Becky Vardaman on the big screen.
Hello.
So long story short, how I ran into Becky is I was actually at a higher ed symposium up in Boston, and there's a lot of higher ed marketing consulting firms up there. And then just sort of getting their emails that I signed up for, of course, because I sign up for everyone's emails, right? And I got the email saying that they're doing a conference here in Nashville. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. So they are actually doing a conference here in Nashville later on this fall. And just offered Becky the opportunity to come and give us some of her wisdom and tell us a little bit about that conference. But that's it. I'll let Becky explain more about her background and what she's going to talk about today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paul. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Not shouting too much? Awesome. So, hold on. I'm going to actually share my screen with you. I have a whole bunch of good analytics stuff to show off. Bear with me for one moment. All right, are we there? Can you see my screen?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So a real quick introduction of who I am and who Converges. I've been in digital marketing for, gosh, it's almost 10 years now. It's gotten up there. And I've worked at a wide variety of different companies. I actually started out in the publishing business and worked for 4 years in a TV newsroom. So I've done that sort of the real journalist approach as well. I worked for a Fortune 500 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I don't know if anybody's heard of Rockwell Collins. It's a big supplier for the government of avionics equipment, as well as like Boeing and all the big guys. And I worked for a startup applications company too in software security. And now I'm working with Converge for the past several years, working in higher ed. So I have a lot of different experience and have seen a lot of different sides of digital marketing and specifically analytics. I've been working in Google Analytics for most of that time. Converge Consulting, we're a firm that's about 5 years old, and we work primarily in higher education doing inbound marketing. So we work on things like content development, search engine optimization, obviously Google Analytics and other web analytics, digital advertising and video production, those sorts of things. So just a little background on who we are. But really what you guys came for is to talk about analytics, right? So I'm going to get right into it so that I have lots of time at the end to take your questions through this cool video screen so I can actually see you. So today, the questions that I'm prepared and we're going to go through is really why do we do, or why do web analytics matter? Why do we do them? What can we learn from analytics? What's universal analytics? And how we make that transition to the next latest and greatest in universal. I'm going to dive right in. First things first, why do web analytics matter? So, has anybody ever been on a bad date? I luckily haven't been on any recently because I'm happily married, but I know I have been in the past. And the thing is, if you go on a terrible date with somebody and you had an awful time and a terrible experience, what do you do the next day? What do you do then a week later? You usually just don't do anything, right? You usually just don't call. You don't call them up and give them a full list of all the things that they did wrong and all the things that you wish that they would have changed about the date. What you do is you chill out and maybe you don't return their texts. The same exact thing happens with our websites. So people come to our website, and we all know how important the website is. We all know that people are checking out our website before they even consider doing business with us. So if somebody comes and has a terrible experience, you're not going to hear about it. The only way you can hear about it is through web analytics. So if we're putting web analytics on your site, we'll know who came and bounced immediately. We'll know what pages people are spending time on. You get a nice, honest, real understanding of how people are using your website, which would be kind of great for dating. So something to keep in mind as we're talking through all the analytics here, I think a lot of people think that it's just something that they need to do, right? It's just on their checklist. We have to go make sure we have analytics on the site. Analytics is best done when it's a process and not a task. So it's just like if I was trying to drop 5 pounds. I wouldn't just jump on the scale, look at my number, and say, okay, I sure hope I lose 5 pounds next week, right? No, I would analyze what I'm doing and say maybe fewer cupcakes, make a change, and then get back on the scale again after I made that change to see if it worked or not. And then if it still didn't work, maybe I'd hit the gym more. Exactly the way you should think about your analytics. So what can we learn about analytics, or from analytics? What are the main things we can take away? So analytics out of the box. It has 4 main sections. There's more than 4 sections to Google Analytics, but the ones that I think are most important for you to look at and to get really familiar with is the audience, the acquisition, the behavior, and the conversions, right? So under audience, that's where you're going to find things like geography, where people are that are coming to your website, whether it's the metro, city, state, country, the behavior of those people, they're new or returning, whether they're using a certain browser type in the technology. In fact, in some industries, the network is actually going to be the name of the company, which is phenomenal. Working in higher education, almost everybody that we work with has a network that is the name of their college. So it's a little sneaky thing that we get to do in higher ed that some industries don't get to. What device type they're using. I don't need to tell you guys, you're an AMA, you understand that mobile is huge and getting bigger every year. So it's really important to make sure that you have a mobile-friendly, responsive website, and understanding through analytics, you can really make the case for the funding to get that done. We even can get demographics now. This is a newish report within analytics, and it'll tell you male, female, and some specific interests even of some of your website users. Some of you are probably thinking, how do they know that? How does that work? It's actually all tied to AdWords and advertising and AdSense. The different website properties out there that put ads on their site are sharing information back with Google Analytics, and we're tracking that actual user through the sessions. So that's typically how it works. I have it live on our site. It's only been live for about a month, and we're seeing about 50 to 60% of our traffic is actually coming through with demographic information, which is more than I expected. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, we have what pages they visit in the behavior section, how long they're there in the behavior section, where did they come from in acquisition, which as marketers, we all really care about a lot. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And of course, what they did. This is the things like events and goal conversions, which again, are really important, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit. So all of this out of the box stuff is great. This is really, really helpful. But when it gets really, really good is when you can add in some customizations. So if I tell you right now, your site had 2,000 page views, 70% returning visitors, and 80% bounce rate. Is that good or bad? It depends, right? It depends. And so what's really, really helpful if you're setting all of this up is to set up goals so that you can look at how these things are performing, and these basic metrics are performing against the things that you really care about. So the place that I like to start with goals, I doubt very many of you sitting in the audience right now only have one audience that visits your site. In higher education, that's not the case at all. So with a lot of the clients that I work with, this is an example from one of them. Three basic audiences that we have: prospective undergrad, Maybe those students in the middle, we want to try to get them to come to campus. It might be high school students who we also want to get to come, or perhaps it's somebody who's considering coming back to school, an adult. So there's a lot of different audiences already. Let's look at the prospective undergrad as an example. So pick an audience, and now talk, why do you have a website for that person? Is it because we want them to apply? Or perhaps if it's a current student, they need to register for courses. Maybe you want them to donate. On our website, we want people to sign up for that newsletter so that Paul will continue to call me and I can do things like this. So depending on what your site is and which audience you're thinking about, you really want to drill down to why do we have a website for that specific audience. As we're setting up goals, there are 4 different types of goals. There are URL destinations, which the easiest way to think about those is a thank you page. So I've gone through, I've completed my form to sign up for the newsletter, and I hit a thank you page. You can, anytime somebody hits that page, we can count that as a goal conversion. We also have time on site, which is of course exactly what it sounds like. If this is really good for like a blog or a news site where you want people to be really engaged and spend a lot of time engaging with your content, pages per visit is very similar. It's you set a threshold for the number of pages that they hit during that visit, and that becomes your goal. And then events. Does anyone know what events are? Maybe? Events are kind of the way to track the untrackable. It's a little snippet of code, and I'll show you what it looks like, that you place around something like perhaps it's watching a video or clicking on a button to an off-site link. Something that we deal with all the time in higher education is we'll use third-party applications like Common App. And so people want to click on this button and count that as your goal conversion, but once you leave our website, we have no idea what you're doing. So all we can do is track that button click. So events are really helpful when you run into the wall where you're like, I don't know how to track this. A lot of times it's going to be an event. So I'm going to give you an example of kind of the framework we use when we're trying to set up goals for people. So we first, like I said, think about your audience. So my audience in this case is going to be my prospective undergrad. So for my business objective for them, I want them to apply. That's easy. You can all probably think of an audience right now and at least one business objective that you want them to do, right? So the second line of this is your website goal. What do we actually want them to do on the website that's going to translate to that business objective? So in this case, it's complete our online application. That's all wonderful, but how are we going to measure that? That's when our key performance indicator comes in. So we'll use our KPI in this case, visits to the thank you page of the application. Pretty straightforward. We also like to go 2 steps further. I like it to have people set it targets, because this is really the strategy piece. You want to make sure that you are making a stretch goal and know what you're trying to get to. I've got an X% in there because most colleges will tell me that we're trying to increase overall enrollment by this much, and then we usually will have to do some computations to figure out how much we can expect to come from the website itself. And then, of course, segments. Segments is on this specific audience for this specific goal. Of all of those other things we know about people that I showed you a couple of slides ago, what are the most important? What are the drill downs of those segments of that audience that are going to be really helpful? So in this example, if we have a prospective undergrad student, I obviously want to know where they're from in the world, especially if I'm spending money and people's man hours to put them out at a recruiting fair someplace, or maybe I just bought billboards in some specific county, and I want to know if any of that stuff is translating to a higher conversion rate. Additionally, traffic sources are going to be important for each and every one of you because you're in marketing. And it's always going to be important for us to know the things that we're spending time and money on, whether it's social media or paid advertising or even a link from another website, which of those different ways are driving the highest conversion rate on my specific goal here. So I usually build a giant ugly spreadsheet when I'm working with folks to go through this exercise for each different audience and each different business objective. And that's really the framework of where we start when we're building goals. Another really important piece of the puzzle here is those traffic sources. So I mentioned this before several times. This acquisition tab in Google Analytics is a marketer's best friend. You can see that you find it down under here, under all traffic. And then you should see a big list of things like Google Organic, Direct None, different email campaigns, referrals from social media, all kinds of good stuff in here. There's really 4 different main types of traffic that come into your website. There's direct traffic, and that means somebody who came directly to your site by typing in your domain name and or clicking, maybe they have a bookmark sometimes. Direct is also the place where Google throws everything in that they don't know what it is. So if something's broken in the referral information, Google's going to throw it into the direct bucket. Search engines, most of you will see direct traffic and search engine traffic as number 1 and number 2 for driving traffic to your site. Search engine, Google Organic is going to be always the biggest, which is why when anybody talks search engine optimization, you accidentally always say the Google algorithm versus search engine algorithms, because we know it's the most important, biggest one. But by default, 20 plus, including all the international majors, are included in that list. Another type of traffic that can come to your site is referrals. So this is if you've got a link from somebody else's website linking to your site, and they're referred that way. So they have to follow a path in order to count as a referral. And then there's campaigns. I'm not going to go into campaigns too much, but campaign tracking and campaign tagging within Google Analytics is a really great way to get kind of a next level of tracking information. You can actually take the source, the medium, and the campaign and say, call it whatever you want by adding some parameters to a URL. And that's why it's custom, and you get to decide. So if you're doing a bunch of social media campaigns, it makes sense to do some custom campaign tracking so you can understand which one of those things that you posted, which video maybe that you posted on your Facebook page drove the most people to your site, and then which one converted the most people on those goals we've got set up. Hope that makes sense. So why do they matter so much? Why are these sources so important for marketing? Obviously, the first one is going to be which traffic sources are converting best on your goals. If your goal is to get people to contact you and try to do business with you, or if your goal is to have somebody purchase something on your website, or in higher education's case, it might be to sign up and apply, or maybe it's attend an event or a webinar. We want to know which traffic sources are converting the best so that we can put more time and money and energy into those audiences. So a great example of that is we know that we get a ton of direct traffic, and we know we get a ton of Google Organic traffic. But in our case, Converge's case, our email traffic converts phenomenally. So we send out a lot of emails, sorry, Paul, to get as many people as possible converting and trying to target those emails to people specifically. You always want to know at what rate they're converting over time. This helps you decide where you're going to spend your money, where you're going to spend your time, and of course you can find those trends, the unexpected trends that maybe you wouldn't have realized that you can really capitalize on. Immediately you can find out if there's somebody linking to you that's driving a lot of good quality traffic, that maybe you can contact their webmaster and boost it up even more. Let's talk about events really quick. Events are, I mentioned, kind of the way to track the untrackable. Most of you probably have really cool websites, and your really cool websites probably have things on them that you have no idea if people are using or not. This is especially true when it comes to like video and homepage sliders, if anybody still has those. You've got all of this information out there, and you might even fight about what gets to go on your homepage. It's probably a point of contention. But if we track it with event tracking, you'll be able to tell right away if people are watching your video, if people are clicking on your sliders, if people are using your social media buttons, or if they're clicking on any of your homepage quote-unquote banner ads. All of this stuff can be tracked, and better yet, you can tell if somebody watched the video and then in the same session converted on your goal. So all of a sudden you can have real-life numbers tying your video views to the number of people that contacted you, or whatever it might be that you set up as your goal. So events are really, really cool. The way you set them up is there's a little snippet of code that looks like this. It looks a little scary, but I promise it's not. You basically put it around the on-click in the actual page source code. So when somebody clicks on something, Google Analytics is also going to send this event, and you can name them with the category and an action. I am going to touch briefly on Google Tag Manager in the last couple of slides. Google Tag Manager does something that's called auto event tracking, and it's phenomenal. You can do a lot of this dynamically, and it sets up in a way that even if you were to change out like your navigation, it would automatically still track everything that's going on in your nav. So I'll show you an example of what that looks like. And of course, all this is great. We know who's coming to our site. We know basic information about them. We know where they're coming from. We know if they're converting on our goals. We know what kind of events they're doing. But how often are we looking at it, right? I'm guilty of this. In fact, I used to spend Fridays, like just all of Fridays, pulling reports for people that nobody ever looked at in other companies. And it was so frustrating. That's where dashboards come in. Dashboards are so nice for the people who are doing the reporting and for the people who are making the marketing decisions. So a dashboard is a list of up to 12 widgets that are in a nice format that you can get in a PDF or you can get in Excel, and regularly look at the metrics that matter the most to you. What's really cool about this is that they can be emailed. So you see that you can export them as a PDF, easy to share with whomever you need to send them to. You can also set up this email that can be weekly, daily. We're big analytics nerds at Converge, so we actually get one every day, which is pretty crazy. I don't know not many of our clients do that, but we do have some that are getting them weekly and a lot that are getting them monthly of, the top things that are converting on their goals, the top people that are coming to their site, all this different information. You can also share them. You see that this bottom graphic here is sharing a dashboard or sharing a template link. And what that means is I could send a link to you guys of a pre-made dashboard that all you do is click and add it to your analytics, and it'll be fully your data. That's really, really cool because there are people way smarter than me out there all over the web creating these things and sharing the links with people. So if you're looking for a social media dashboard, just go Google it. Go say, hey, Google social media dashboard. You'll probably see some from Avinash. You'll probably see some from Justin Caccioni, and a lot of other guys out there and gals that are creating these things on a regular basis. Dashboards are wonderful. So where do you start if you're building your own dashboards? Goals. Always make dashboards about your goals. Easiest, if you've already told me that that's the most important thing happening on your website, so clearly that's what we want to track. Any current reporting you're doing, remember I said I was doing Fridays? I wasn't doing Fridays as soon as I figured this out. So any current reporting that people need. Content-heavy sections like blog or news sites. If you have people who are contributing content to your site, giving them a regular dashboard on how their blog posts or news stories are doing is phenomenal at getting them engaged and wanting to write better content. You can do specific campaign. So I mentioned campaign tagging earlier, and if I was doing a campaign for a fall video and I wanted to post it on a bunch of different channels, I could tag them all in a way that I could do one wrapped up dashboard so I'd understand how that full campaign performed, which is really, really nice. And then it's great because you can compare it to the next campaign that you do and really see apples to apples. Specific traffic sources, anybody who's doing pay-per-click or cost-per-click advertising, really good idea to put together a dashboard to monitor this. You get reporting probably from whoever's doing this for you, and you also get reporting from AdWords. But it's nice to be able to really layer that on top of your analytics and your web data to know what other things they're doing. So maybe you had a PPC campaign where people came in and they converted on the conversion for AdWords, but they were also watching your video. You wouldn't know that unless you overlaid the two pieces of information together. And then we're inbound marketing folks, so we always advocate for the inbound marketing process. Doing an attract board, how are people getting there? A convert board, how are they really executing on your goals? And it's a light board for how they're engaged. So we think about everything kind of in those 3 buckets. Excellent. So any questions on analytics before I dive into Universal? I went through a lot there really quickly. No? Okay. I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about Universal Analytics, hopefully why you're here. So analytics have been around for about 10 years. Back in 2004, 2005, there was something called Urchin. I don't know if anybody has used Urchin besides me. Urchin was the tracking software company that Google went and bought up and turned into Google Analytics. Urchin was great. Everybody wanted to use it. As soon as Google Analytics first came out, you couldn't even sign up for it. You had to get on a wait list. People were so excited about it. It took months to be able to get actual analytics on your site. And that was just the traditional. Since then, we've had synchronous and we've had asynchronous Google Analytics. Synchronous and traditional are the ones that some of you probably still have in your footer of your site. Asynchronous is when you got to move it up to the header because it loads at the same time and doesn't slow down your site. So it's better to have it higher up. Now, though, as of April of this year, Universal Analytics is out of beta. And Universal Analytics is the latest and the greatest. So let me tell you a little bit about what's different about it. Probably the biggest deal, the biggest thing with Universal Analytics is something that they're calling the measurement protocol. And this is basically different. It's allowing you to import data to Google Analytics from really any system or device that you have. You can send it through this UTM GIF image request using a get or a post. I'm not going to get too technical on it, but basically what that means is you can send in data from a call center, from point of sale. Colleges all over the country are eyeing this, saying that now I can, my recruiters who are sitting in an office calling people can import information that way. Or if I scan my ID card when I'm buying my books, that can be scanned in and understand part of that user's cycle. So analytics is really taking a big step from being just a web measurement protocol to really measuring an entire person's experience with your site. Let me show you some things that means. That means you can include offline conversions. You can import those through analytics. There's something called server-side sessionization. And basically all this means it's a fancy way of saying that there used to be some things you used to have to call IT to come and adjust in your analytics. So like if you wanted to change your cookie timeout length, or example here, reclassifying certain keywords as direct. If somebody types Converge Consulting into their Chrome URL bar, they're trying to come to my site. You know, we can reclassify that as direct traffic instead of as search engine traffic, or adding new organic search engines, these sorts of things. It's become a lot easier for you to do that within the actual interface of Google Analytics as a marketer instead of having to bring in IT and do some code work. Custom dimensions and custom metrics is really the next generation of custom variables. These are cool. Like let's say you have a form on your site and you are collecting whether somebody is male or female in that form. You can actually append that information from the form using a custom dimension and tie that information to that full session. So you would understand if they were, you know, how many men versus women are watching videos, looking at certain pages, completing your goals, all of that sort of stuff. Male-female is just an example. You could do it with zip code. You could do it with address. You could do it with somebody who's self-identified where they found you from. All sorts of things that you might be able to do within these variables. This is the really, really cool stuff, the stuff that once you get your goal set up, once you have your events in place, once you've been doing some dashboard reporting, and you sit down and you say, Becky, I want to know more. I want to figure out how we can know even more about what's going on. That's where you come and look at this stuff. Additionally, there's something called dimensional widening. This is brand new, and it's got some really huge capabilities. So the best case that I can think of to explain this to you is a higher ed example where we have people coming out of a CRM with a unique ID, and we can tie that user ID when they log in. Is actually logging into the back end to, make some comments and engage with you in that way. If you have a site that people log in, this is for you. Tied together with a key, or basically in that case it would be the ID number. Once you have that ID number identified with the session, you can upload all kinds of other information about them. You can upload purchase history and maybe if it's donation history, other elements that you might have in your CRM that you want to combine together.
You still there, Becky?
It's going to give us the ability to import cost data.
Hey, Becky, you dropped out for a little bit.
I'm sorry?
You dropped out for about 10 seconds.
Oh, no. Where did I stop?
Right at the important part.
Did I tell you about dimension widening?
Yeah, you were talking about linking that ID number to a bunch of other things.
Okay, cool. In fact, that's great. I have a good example of this in real life, quote unquote real life. So being able to link that up, we can then upload other information we might have in our CRM to be able to tie that to the sessions of that person. So we'll get a lot more information about who they are and what they're doing. The cost import data is basically right now all you can get the cost import data from, or cost data from, is AdWords. So Google is trying to play nice and let you import cost information from other advertising networks that you might use. So this one I haven't actually seen in real life yet. So if anybody has, I'd love to see what it looks like. We use Facebook and LinkedIn like crazy with clients, as well as Bing. So that'll probably be our first step, is getting those in. The multi-platform tracking is kind of a result of all of these other things. So doing multi-platform tracking has been kind of the golden goose of analytics and web analytics. It's hard to do, and Google's taken a really good step towards understanding how to do it. And by this I mean, if I'm on my phone and I'm purchasing something from Amazon, they don't necessarily know that I'm the same user as when I'm logged into my computer at work versus if I'm logged into my home computer or if I'm on my iPad. So the idea behind this is to tie us all together with that user ID and understand that I'm the same user on all of those different devices. So here's an example of the cool stuff that is coming for Universal Analytics. Again, this has been out of beta since April. So there's still a lot of people playing with this and figuring it out. So let's say that my husband and I were big fans of music festivals. So we went to Lollapalooza this summer in Chicago. And we went out to the website and we bought tickets. Each one of those tickets had a unique ID number on them. So we go to the show, we have a great time, and they scan our tickets as we are going in through the gates. When we're there, we also buy some posters, some swag. We have like 500 Lollapalooza t-shirts in my house. So we buy these things, and they scan our tickets while we're at the show as we're purchasing these things. And then after the show, a couple days later, they say, hey, our lineup is getting ready to announce for next year. They send me an email, which I look at on my smartphone, and they say, if you go and use your ID number that's on your ticket and plug it in, you can get early bird access to the tickets. So that's great. It's great for me because they identified me as a consumer that I'm really into this stuff. Not only have I come to the show, but we purchased stuff, so of course we want to go again next year. It's great for them because they know everything about me. And what they want to do is make more of me, more people that are like me that are engaged. So they want to learn everything that I'm possibly doing and where I come from, how they attracted me in the first place, how they can get me to purchase more things. So all of this can be included into their CRM and tied together through all these great tools so they can look at me and say, well, she did this, 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 and this. From maybe her work computer, they went to the website, but then she also came from her iPhone. This starting to make sense? It's pretty cool stuff. It's a little bit scary for some of us. So I think that there's a lot of implications and a lot of really cool things that are coming and are already rolled out for Universal Analytics. The main takeaways, the things that you need to understand about it is, first, it's coming, and really it's here, right? It's already rolled out. It's the next iteration. It's what you need to do. In fact, you'll need to get on board with it. You have about 2 years. Google has actually said that after this becomes the standard operating system for analytics, they're not guaranteeing that they're going to continue to support the others after about 2 years. So that's usually where people's ears perk up and I get people's attention that really you do need to consider moving. And there's all kinds of really cool tools. There's going to be amazing things happening in digital marketing and analytics in the next, year to 5 years, based on some of the tools that are right here in the system right now, and you want to be a part of that. They're doing some really fantastic things, and I'm working with some clients that are doing some really cool things. The migration, it's been around since November 2012. It was in private beta, and only the uber nerds had access. By April 2013, it was in public beta, which meant all of us got to try things. We were playing with the new tool. It was gradually rolling out features. Now it is out of beta. It has been since April 2014, and all of the major features are there. You can do remarketing, you can do AdWords importing, you can do all of those things that you could do in your regular analytics. So the question I always get is, should we switch? And of course, it's not should you, but when. And now is really the time to start making the plan. So there's 2 different ways that you can transition. The first way, and for some of you this might be the preferred way, is you can do something that's as simple as transfer. You've probably seen, if you've been in your analytics recently, under the property, the center column under admin, there will be a note that says that you're able to transfer. And you can just click a button and update your code on your site, which is these 2 steps, and voila, you have upgraded, right? It's not too tough. This is what I recommend you do if you have good analytics right now, you're tracking things accurately, you know that things are set up right, which a lot of us have problems with subdomains and multiple domains that we're trying to track. So if you're doing all of that correctly, then I'd say go ahead and transfer, because then you're going to have historical data within that same property, and this is the ultimate best case scenario. So like for a small website like ours, Converge, we have a pretty small site and everything was tracked correctly, so I could just upgrade it. But some of us will find out as we're kind of going through the process that we have a bunch of problems. We have self-referrals. We aren't sure if we're tracking everything correctly. We're going in to try to set up goals, and we realize that we can't because half of our pages don't have the code on them. This happens all the time, and it happens all the time in my industry in higher ed because we're dealing with websites that are enormous, right? So if you have a situation like this where you're looking at your analytics and you're not sure if it's accurate and you're not sure if everything's good, first go do a good audit of it and find out where the problems are. And then in some cases it might make sense to do both. You can absolutely lay your new Universal Analytics property on at the same time as your existing asynchronous, and nothing bad will happen. It'll be fine. You can track them at the same time. In fact, this is copied off of a screen grab of Google's site where they're telling you to do just that. So you can absolutely do that. Was there a question?
No, it sounded like you dropped him, but...
Okay. So In some cases, yes, both does make the most sense. In our industry, I usually recommend we do both because usually we're fixing a lot of things. For a lot of you, you might not have that problem and you might be able to just upgrade. If it doesn't, if we don't upgrade, we have 2 years. This is it in writing for you. So yes, it's true. The people that are involved. Usually what it takes in larger companies, in universities, you're going to have to talk with marketing. You might be marketing. You're going to have to pull in IT because you're going to have to swap out that code. Sometimes different IT departments, depending on how large you are, will require some other things as well, as far as privacy policy updates and these sorts of things. Any third-party applications you might be using are important to go look at. If you're using like Forms or maybe like Eventbrite or other tools like that that make hosting events really easy, make webinars really easy. You're going to want to check them though and make sure that you have them as integrated as possible. And then of course you're going to have to talk to whoever your internal stakeholders are. Typically, for me, that's admissions, academics, even athletics. You might have salespeople or product teams that you need to bring in. The people who are actually looking at the analytics reports, I always recommend that you talk to them as you're doing this so that you can make sure you get their input and everybody's on the same page. The time involved. The time it takes to do this is actually really, really quick. If you're a small company and you can just roll with it, your transition time is as long as it takes you to replace that code and publish. I do recommend, though, that making and executing a plan at this time and really going through and making sure that things make sense. You've got your audience mapped out, the right goals. And sometimes I've seen that take up to 6 months, depending on the team, the personnel, the people that are involved, the levels of approval we have to go through. So again, I'm coming at this from a higher education perspective where a lot of you probably understand there's a lot of people that need to be involved. So it's a great time to make sure you have that strategic plan. You're going in and you're basically resetting with a different analytics code. There's going to be a little bit of variance anyways within the way that it's tracking things. It's going to be more accurate, but it's a great time if you're going to make any other major changes to do them all at the same time. So make sure that you have that accurate, reliable data. Make sure that you're tracking all your subdomains and your other root domains correctly. Make sure that you don't have any self-referrals, all that good stuff. Then also go through that process. You can use that roadmap, that template that I showed you, of picking out your audiences and making sure.
Drop out again, Becky.
Tell it's on the internet, right?
That's what I was just going to test.
Oh, are you back?
Oh, yep, we're back. We're back now.
Second time, huh?
Yeah, that was a long one.
How long was I out? Did I talk about Mario yet?
That's new. Yeah, you're out for a minute or so. Oh, she's gone again.
Oh, are you back?
Oh, here you are.
I don't know what's going on. Sorry, guys. My internet's working here. I just apparently it's kicking me. Okay, should we hurry? All right, where did I lose you?
We didn't really get very far from when you came back.
Oh, really? So we were. Did I talk about upgrading yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
What about the different ways to upgrade?
Yes.
Did I talk about the people involved?
Yes.
Time
No.
and a plan?
I think there you go.
Okay.
Slide is, we haven't seen that one.
Okay. You would remember, right? Oh, did I lose you again?
Nope.
Okay. Somebody talk to me constantly so I know. Okay. So I've only got a couple more slides, and then we can just talk. So Google Tag Manager. Tag Manager is this amazing tool. I think about it like a pipe in Mario, like kind of you're warping to a different world. You take this little snippet of code that looks similar to the code that you're used to seeing for analytics. It's called a container code, and you put it out on the website instead of your actual analytics code. So it's one time you have to bother IT, and IT will put it on the site. And then it basically opens up this pipe to you, the marketer, to be able to put things on your website, tags, quote unquote, which is basically snippets of code, directly onto the site. This is great for things like conversion tracking and AdWords remarketing tags, and it's phenomenal for Google Analytics because you can place your regular analytics tag through it, and you can also do something called auto event tagging through it. So I'll show you an example of what that might be. Tag Manager really works with three different pieces. There are tags, there are macros, and there are rules. And basically the macros and the rules are there to support the tags and have them do what it is you want them to do. Basically they're out there listening for things, capturing it, and then collecting it within analytics. So this is an example of what the interface actually looks like. This I think is ours. And you can see that there's different ways that you can do things. The very first tag on there that says Code Universal is the actual Universal Analytics code being placed on the site. And you can see that it's a rule of all pages. So every page in our entire site is going to want to have that on there. Perfect, right? That's the easiest type of tag. There are other things we can do, though, where we're listening for anytime a form is submitted on your site. And then anytime a form is submitted, we're going to collect it as an event. Or anytime there's YouTube on a page, we're going to track whether people started the video, watched 25%, 50%, or finished it. So there's a lot of really cool things out here. These take, custom JavaScript and custom HTML too. So you can do a lot of really cool things. So like I mentioned, you can track your entire navigation and know who's clicking on what throughout your entire navigation. And I can set something like that up with some custom JavaScript tags really quickly. And you'll have all kinds of great information. Tag Manager is absolutely a best practice if you're doing a large analytics implementation to make sure that everything is in one place and it's easy for people to have access to it and to pass it on to other folks. Because I don't know how many of you had that instance where somebody leaves your company who is in charge of analytics and now all of the rest of you are just going, So it's really good to have something like this in place. So we've run through these 4 different things. I want to show you, though, a couple of examples of what this means in real life for a couple of clients we work with. So here's an example of a goal funnel. I didn't talk about goal funnels very much, but this is a beautiful goal funnel. I've only got the top third of it. It's so big. So this is a client we work with that has their actual application for students to apply to their college online, and every page of it has its own unique URL. And because they've set it up that way, it's really easy for us to see how many people started, which is what you're seeing on, can you guys see my goal funnel?
Yep. You still see Mario.
Yeah, we're stuck on Mario.
Uh-oh. Let me jump out and jump back in. This is an adventure, guys. Thanks for going on it with me. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So the number on the left there, that 3,000, is the number of people who started and where they came from. You can see that the green are the people who progressed to the next page, and the red are the people who did not and where they went instead. So imagine this being, 3 times as long. They can see exactly where people are having trouble with their analytics and where people are having trouble with the form so they can optimize it and get more people to convert. This is really, really good if anybody's doing e-commerce and you're trying to do a checkout process. Absolutely, you need to do this sort of funnel marketing on it. So funnels are beautiful and great. They give you an in-depth look at how your actual funnel or forms are converting. This is an example of a snippet of our dashboard from Converge. And I made the comments earlier that the thing we want to have people do is sign up for our newsletter. We want them to do other stuff too. But in this example, that's our goal number 1. So you can see really clearly which sources and mediums over there on the left are doing the best for us as far as signups. I actually usually look at this with one more column that gives me a conversion rate too, so I can see that we actually have more people converting at a higher rate from our email. So this is what I mean when I say put together a dashboard and look at it on a regular basis.
We're still on the goal funnel page.
Yeah, she was too.
Of course you are. Okay, I've only got 2 slides left. Can you see that now?
Yep.
All right, I'm moving to the next one. Can you see it? Events in action?
Top converting sources.
No?
There you go.
Manually.
Yes, got it.
Manual like that. So events in action, this is what these things look like. This is actually a client we work with who I have auto-tagged their entire site. We work with Notre Dame's Alumni Association, and they launched a new website this year. They used to have a very transactional website where they just had people going in and basically filling out forms to keep their information updated. It was very transactional. But they launched this new site, and their site was really all about engaging their alumni, which is awesome. That's what it should be about, right? The problem is they didn't know how to track it. They didn't know how to say, was this successful or not? So what we've done here is we've tagged the heck out of it through Tag Manager, And you can see the bigger one on the left is listing all the different things on the homepage that people are doing. The homepage cards is basically the different big like buttons that they have. They're kind of like feature stories. They call them cards. But the type of news that people are looking at, if they're playing the video, if they're clicking on different alumni stories, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you look on the next column to the right, the top alumni stories is the next level down. So for each one of those things on the left, there's a next level down, and we get the specifics. So we know that some people are clicking on view all alumni stories, some people are clicking on Monk's Bookstore Memories, these different pieces. And also we have like the video controls, if people are actually playing or pausing and moving and unmuting. So this is what this can look like in real life for you if you do this kind of tag. Cool. So, I'm totally ready to take some questions from you guys. I wanted to plug our conference really quick. We're coming to Nashville, coming to see you. I finagled and got you guys a $100 off promo code. If anybody wants to come in, it's there on the slide for you. And it's really targeted at higher education, but I'm doing an analytics pre-conference on Monday as well. So a little bit more insight there. And I'm going to stop sharing and go back to the video and see if you guys have any questions.
All right, so does anyone have any questions here in the audience?
Oops, there we go. Am I back?
You're back. You're there, live. So I've got one question for you.
Yeah.
How does this position Google Analytics compared to all of the other analytic packages out there?
That's a good question. Is anybody using something different? I'm just curious.
Omniture?
Yeah. I know some people who use web trends. I've seen people using things like Kissmetrics, which are kind of an addition. Personally, I've always been a Google Analytics girl, and I like it the best because it's free, first of all, right? And most of us aren't going to be spending a ton of money on this sort of thing until we get to the enterprise level, when you might have to purchase that for analytics if you have tons and tons and tons and tons of traffic. But I think that what they're doing is really positioning themselves and moving from being strictly web analytics into, God, I don't want to say that they're trying to like take over for a CRM, but they really are giving you that full scope instead of just that one little sliver of web. Because we all know that web is, it's really important, but it's no longer just that anymore. It's this, I think that's where they're headed.
So can Universal Analytics track you on your phone and the website at the same time?
What?
If you had a mobile app, would it know, is it capable of tracking the same user across multiple platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I don't know if any of you guys are in analytics all the time, but you probably, if you are, you notice in the past couple of months, they changed some of the terminology from visits to sessions and from unique visitors to, forget what the terminology was. But the point is they changed that because they're trying to be more app friendly. And they really want to bring the app users into the fold with us. I worked at an app company, and at the time, Google Analytics was terrible on apps. It was several years ago. But now they're getting to the point where if you are using the app, it'll keep that session and understand it if it's in the same property. Yeah.
So which of your clients have done the switch, and what have they seen from that switch?
To Universal?
Yes.
Gosh, Notre Dame is the one that I just showed you the example from. We worked with Carthage to do the same thing, and Carthage had a lot of things going on and kind of a bit of a disaster going on. So now they have nice, clean reporting with dashboards that they can actually take action on. We work with University of Scranton. They've transitioned. Same thing. They have dashboards now, and they have goals set up for a bunch of different audiences. we are working currently with Creighton University in Omaha, and they're doing an entire site relaunch. And so they're rolling this out. This is actually one of the most complicated analytics rollouts because they're rolling it out as they're rolling out their different college websites. And already they're basically, they have usable data now, whereas before they're a case where they had so many subdomains and so many third parties that they couldn't really understand what was happening on their web property at all. They had tons and tons of self-referrals, so rolling that out has been, they actually can use it now. There's a whole bunch of other ones, but the end result is typically the same.
So you mentioned tagging and different ways to pull in data from other sources. One of the biggest issues that people have is actually getting a return on investment, because if you don't physically make a sale online, it's hard to determine we spent this much money on analytics and marketing, and what did we get out of it? So how would you address that as we address our clients? What would you say?
What industry are your clients in?
A variety. A lot dealing with wedding sales, rentals, that type of product.
Right. Well, in a perfect world, we're all Amazon, right? Where somebody can log in and we can track them across different platforms. That's probably the hardest thing. That's the state of web analytics right now, that we aren't always going to have perfect attribution. And that's why actually we always look at dashboards that are kind of general as well. So like I mentioned, looking at a geography where you might be doing some advertising and seeing if there's a bump. That can be helpful, especially if it's a geography that you aren't normally advertising in. You're going to see, we always see on our site a little bit of an uptick when we do things like this. July, my bosses spoke at 7 shows, and we saw our direct traffic go up. So it's about using the brain and tying it all together and understanding that it's not a perfect tool. All it is code on the site, but it's actually putting metrics behind something that we would be completely blind to otherwise. I think it's about managing that expectation.
So what I want is the sentence I can tell my clients: believe me, it's working.
I think you just said it.
Yeah, just that. But I need to be able to relate it to them in absence of actual dollar figures.
Well, here's what you do. What, you set up a goal that actually, is it e-commerce on their site?
They're more lead generation.
Okay. So do they know how much a lead results in for them on average?
The issue is sometimes it's $100 and sometimes it's $10,000.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes, we could average it, but that didn't seem to be the right solution.
Well, typically there's actually a function within the goals on analytics, in universal analytics, where you can give each goal a dollar amount. So we do the same thing with our clients sometimes, but make sure we call it kind of funny money. You can't take it to accounting and actually get it, cashed in, but you can plug in a goal value, an average of what a lead is worth for them, and then you can actually see the dollars and cents through all of your reporting on how much each traffic source is worth, how much each page is contributing dollars and cents wise. That's probably the closest I can get to being able to tie that through if you're not doing actual e-commerce. If you're doing actual e-commerce, then you can plug in dollars for real, which is amazing. You can actually set it up so that the number of dollars that they spend will automatically be attributed to that goal.
Okay.
That helpful?
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
Hopefully to dovetail with that, what about personally identifiable information? So email, you're not allowed to store email addresses in custom dimensions because but it would let Google see who they are. What about like CRM unique identifiers? Are those allowed? Is Google going to terminate our Google Analytics account because we imported are there unique IDs that we can identify who they are individually?
No, actually, that's fine. In fact, there's a newish feature that they've added that's called the user ID. And that if you go into your demographic, it's right underneath your demographic information and audience. It's intended for that purpose exactly, of being able to, as long as it's a unique, unpersonally identifiable, like you're not recording their social security number as that number or whatnot, yes, you can do that.
So then could you tie your wedding venue dollars in after the fact and see how much they were post account if you're tracking like a ID basis maybe?
Yeah. It's pretty manual, I think, initially. You might be able to figure out a way to import that data, though, through some of those get and post items that we showed you.
All right, any other questions? All right, it looks like we're good. Well, thank you so much, Becky. Really appreciate your time and taking us through some of the technical challenges. Apologize for that, but thank you for your expertise, and we'll make sure and look for you when you're here in Nashville. We'll take you to those options, guys.
Thank you very much. It was great to speak with you guys. What a fun thing to do.
All right. Thanks again.